December 16th, 1944. Dawn breaks over Ardennes Forest. American soldiers huddle in frozen foxholes, sipping coffee. They believe victory is near. Hitler prepares his final gamble. Nobody sees death approaching through the mist. 200,000 Germans wait in absolute silence. I walk the line, checking my men. My breath hangs white. Christmas arrives in 9 days. I promised my wife I'd return by spring. Behind enemy lines, panzers idle with muffled engines. My stomach tightens. Something feels wrong. The silence screams danger nobody else hears. You stand where empires collide. This quiet forest becomes hell's corridor within hours. The largest battle American forces ever fight begins at dawn. What happens here determines whether democracy survives or tyranny reclaims Europe. History pivots on frozen ground. Ordinary men face extraordinary choices that reshape civilization's trajectory. German tanks idle in darkness. Commanders synchronize watches. Operation Watch on the Rhine, Hitler's desperate masterpiece. His generals protested this madness. Fuel runs critically low. Allies grow stronger daily. But the Führer demands one apocalyptic gamble. Success requires capturing Allied fuel depots. Failure means Germany's total collapse accelerates irreversibly. Private Hendricks writes his final letter home. The quiet feels wrong, he scribbles, like the forest holds its breath. His hands shake not from cold, but instinct. War teaches reading silence. This silence screams approaching horror. He seals the envelope. Within minutes, his world explodes into fire and chaos. Intelligence officers dismiss reconnaissance reports. Tank movements, defensive repositioning, troop concentrations, local reserves. Nobody believes. Germany retains offensive strength. Arrogance costs lives. American confidence transforms into chaos within hours. The forest erupts with thunder nobody predicted. Complacency proves deadlier than any German weapon deployed against unsuspecting frontline positions. Sergeant Baker remembers his father's Great War, stories, battles turning on single moments when someone blinked. He stares into fog-shrouded trees, sensing danger. His gut saved him at Normandy. He orders ammunition checks. Minutes later, history explodes. His instinct saves 3 men. Others die instantly. Never understanding what hit them. 0530 hours. Artillery shells shatter frozen dawn. The barrage sounds like earth splitting open. American positions disintegrate under concentrated fury. Young men believing victory was won suddenly face annihilation. The Bulge begins. Europe's fate hangs by threads. Germany's final offensive crashes forward with unexpected, overwhelming, devastating violence. German panzers crash through American lines like steel avalanches. Inexperienced troops scatter in terror. Veteran units bleed time holding impossible positions. Roads clog with fleeing refugees. Officers shout contradictory orders. Radio communications collapse entirely. The forest becomes a lethal maze where death hunts from every direction. Every shadow conceals threats. I lead my company through chaos. Half are replacements who arrived last week, never seeing combat. Now they face SS Panzer divisions at point-blank range. I must choose retreat, preserving lives, or hold position, buying time for others. Both options guarantee deaths. Command means choosing who dies today. You hear stories about courage. This is different. This is survival without hope. American soldiers form isolated resistance pockets. Some fight until ammunition exhausts. Others surrender to overwhelming force. Each group believes they fight alone. None realize their sacrifices slow the German tide, buying precious hours for reinforcement, repositioning, and counterattack preparation. Malmedy Crossroads. 84 American prisoners stand in frozen fields, hands raised. They surrendered honorably, trusting war's rules. SS troops surround them. Machine guns open fire without warning. Bodies collapse into snow, staining white-red. News spreads through American ranks, like wildfire surrender means execution. Everything changes. Rage replaces fear entirely. Corporal Jenkins hears about Malmedy by evening. Fury replaces terror. His buddies whisper vengeance. War transforms from duty to personal blood mission. Germans wanted terrorizing Americans into collapse. They miscalculated American character completely. News of the atrocity hardens resolve instead of breaking it. Men fight now with primal fury, not obedience. St. Vith stands as crucial crossroads, controlling the road network. American defenders dig deeper into frozen earth. German forces mass for assault. Hours become days, blurring into desperate struggle. The town must hold. Behind it, thousands flee westward toward safety. Every hour bought here saves lives elsewhere. Repositions, divisions, prevents total breakthrough. I walk among exhausted troops. We've held St. Vith 4 days, against impossible odds. Ammunition runs low, medical supplies vanished, no reinforcements coming. They ask with their eyes, how much longer? I lie through my teeth, promising relief arrives tomorrow. Officers must maintain hope even when none exists inside themselves. German tanks finally overwhelm St. Vith's defenses. Americans retreat, fighting rearguard actions. Colonel Thompson's delay bought critical days. Eisenhower repositions entire divisions. Patton races north with his army. St. Vith's sacrifice gives Allies time preparing counterpunch against Hitler's desperate gamble. Strategic victory emerges from tactical defeat through stubborn, costly, essential resistance. Bastogne emerges as battle's heart. The Belgian town sits at 7 road junctions. 101st Airborne paratroopers rush into the pocket before Germans seal it. Brigadier General McAuliffe commands surrounded forces. He digs in. The siege begins with winter closing hard. Survival depends on stubbornness more than supplies or ammunition. You're trapped in Bastogne. Germans surround you completely. Artillery pounds positions constantly. Casualties mount. Medical supplies dwindle. Food, rations shrink daily. Temperature drops below freezing. Snow falls endlessly. Officers maintain calm faces, planning for worst outcomes. Soldiers joke nervously. Hope feels like luxury nobody can afford. Survival requires hour-by-hour focus. December 22nd. German commander sends surrender. Ultimatum. Terms are generous, honorable capitulation. Lives spared. Officers debate options. Situation appears hopeless. Then McAuliffe speaks one word becoming legend. Nuts. Americans laugh at German confusion over slang. Translation delivered, go to hell. The siege continues defiantly. Morale soars, despite desperate circumstances surrounding them. I guard frozen perimeter at night. Haven't slept properly in 6 days. Frostbite blackens my toes. My rifle feels like ice sculpture. Through trees, German soldiers move closer. I whisper prayers my mother taught me. Morning seems impossible, yet dawn always comes somehow. I miraculously survive to see another day. Medical tent overflows with wounded men. Dr. Harrison operates without anesthesia, supplies exhausted 2 days ago. Soldiers bite leather straps during amputations. Screams echo through canvas walls. Nurses work 20-hour shifts. Nobody complains. Complaining accomplishes nothing here. Survival requires absolute focus beyond normal human limits. Pain becomes constant companion. Everyone endures silently. German intelligence believes Bastogne falls within 48 hours. They redirect panzers elsewhere, leaving infantry finishing the pocket. This mistake proves catastrophic. Paratroopers are elite fighters, thriving in desperate circumstances. Every day Bastogne holds, German momentum dies. Hitler's timetable collapses into frustrated delay. Strategic miscalculation compounds tactical failures throughout the offensive operation. Sergeant Foster tells stories around makeshift fires. His voice keeps morale alive when everything else dies. He invents ridiculous tales about post-victory celebrations. His squad laughs despite frozen misery. Laughter becomes weapon against despair. Germans destroy positions, but cannot break this invisible fortress of shared determination. Stories matter more than ammunition sometimes. Weather becomes cruelest enemy. Blizzards ground Allied aircraft. No air support arrives, no supply drops possible. Germans exploit conditions, attacking under fall, snow cover. Visibility drops to meters, friendly fire incidents multiply. Nature itself seems allied with Nazi forces. Men curse the sky more than enemy bullets. Cold kills more than combat. I navigate between scattered units, maintaining communication. Radio batteries fail in extreme cold. I deliver orders personally, sprinting through artillery fire. Messages memorized. I become living communication network. One bullet could sever entire command structure. I know this. I run anyway, connecting isolated defenders into cohesive resistance against overwhelming German pressure. You hear tank engines approaching, ground shakes, trees explode into splinters. Your bazooka holds 2 rockets. Miss, you die. Hit armor wrong, you die. Aim for tracks or rear engine compartment. 1 shot. Hands steady despite terror. Squeeze trigger. Track explodes. Tank lurches sideways disabled. Run before they pinpoint your position. Christmas Eve arrives wrapped in death. Both sides observe unofficial ceasefire for hours. German soldiers sing Silent Night across no man's land. Americans respond with carols. Music drifts through frozen air. For brief moments, humanity transcends war. Then, artillery resumes. Killing continues with renewed ferocity. Brief peace makes violence afterward feel more obscene. I share my last chocolate bar with wounded private. We discuss families, homes, dreams deferred. War reduces life to simplest equations: warmth, food, survival. Philosophy becomes irrelevant. Tomorrow we might die. Tonight, we exist. That's enough. This moment of shared chocolate contains more meaning than 1,000 speeches about duty or honor. German fuel shortages cripple offensive momentum. Panzers sit immobilized, becoming steel coffins. Hitler promised captured Allied fuel dumps would sustain advance. Instead, Americans destroyed supplies before retreating. Logistics defeats ambition. Tanks without fuel are monuments to miscalculation. German soldiers push vehicles manually, burning precious calories, attempting impossible tasks. Strategy collapses against arithmetic reality. December 23rd. Clouds break suddenly. Sun appears like divine miracle. Allied aircraft swarm German positions immediately. Fighter bombers obliterate supply columns. Transport planes drop desperately needed supplies into Bastogne. Paratroopers cheer wildly, catching parachutes, ammunition, medicine, food, rain from heaven. Weather shifts, momentum shifts. Hope returns with unexpected, overwhelming, transformative force. You witness turning point from cockpit. I circle Bastogne, seeing tiny figures waving frantically below. I release cargo, watching parachutes blossom like flowers in snow. Anti-aircraft fire erupts around me. Shrapnel tears through wing. I don't care. Those men need this. I'll make 3 more runs before fuel runs low today. Patton's Third Army drives north through brutal conditions. Tankers operate continuously, sleeping in vehicles. Infantry marches through snowdrifts. Speed matters more than comfort. Patton demands impossible pace. His soldiers deliver beyond impossibility. They understand brothers die in Bastogne. Every hour counts. Exhaustion becomes badge of honor, not excuse for weakness or delay. I drive supply truck through blizzard conditions. My convoy must reach Patton's advancing units. Roads ice over treacherously. Vehicles slide into ditches. I chain tires, keep moving. Cargo includes critical ammunition. Without it, attack stalls. Haven't slept in 30 hours. Coffee and determination fuel me. Nothing stops this delivery tonight. German officers realize their offensive failed. Fuel exhausted. Casualties mounting. American resistance unexpectedly fierce. Hitler refuses, acknowledging reality. He demands continued attacks despite logic. Experienced commanders know truth this gamble lost. Now, survival becomes goal. Retreat would save lives. Pride kills armies. The Führer chooses pride, predictably. Ideology trumps military sense always. I command German infantry company, down to 30 men from 140. Orders demand futile attacks. My men trust me completely. I face terrible choice: obey and sacrifice them meaninglessly, or retreat and face execution for cowardice. War destroys more than bodies. It destroys souls, forcing impossible decisions with no honorable outcomes. December 26th, Patton's tanks break through German lines surrounding Bastogne. Defenders erupt in celebration. Wounded men cry with relief. The siege lifts after 8 hellish days. Supplies flow into town immediately. Casualties evacuate. Fresh troops reinforce positions. The pocket that wouldn't break now becomes launching point for American counteroffensive. Stubborn courage pays ultimate dividends. You stand in Bastogne as relief arrives. Exhaustion overwhelms you suddenly. Adrenaline sustaining 8 days evaporates instantly. Your legs collapse. Medics catch you. You laugh hysterically, unable stopping. Others weep openly. Some stare blankly, processing survival. Nobody feels heroic. You just feel impossibly, incredibly tired beyond words or comprehension. Relief brings collapse, not triumph. I reflect on comrades lost during siege. Names and faces haunt me. Young replacements who never learned properly before dying. Veterans surviving Normandy only falling here. Each death diminishes something inside me. Survival guilt replaces relief. Why me? Why not others? Questions without answers torture my mind endlessly through sleepless nights ahead. American forces shift from defense to offense. Germans retreat under coordinated pressure. Allied air superiority proves devastating. Supply lines crumble. Communication breaks down. Wehrmacht units splinter into isolated groups. Hitler's final gamble not only fails, it accelerates Germany's collapse. Reserves committed here cannot defend the Rhine later. Strategic catastrophe unfolds inexorably across entire front. I write letter home finally. My hands still shake from combat stress. I describe little. Some things cannot be explained to those who weren't there. I write about weather, food, small details. The real war stays locked inside, too heavy for words on paper. I sign, love always, wondering if I'll survive mailing it. German withdrawal becomes rout. Soldiers abandon equipment, fleeing eastward. American artillery punishes retreating columns mercilessly. Luftwaffe cannot provide cover. Allied fighters strafe roads continuously. Snow turns red with German blood. Revenge for Malmedy is extracted without mercy. War's brutality acknowledges no boundaries when fury replaces discipline in combat operations throughout retreating formations. You watch enemy prisoners march past. They look hollow, starved, frozen, defeated. Young boys in oversized uniforms, old men drafted from desperation. You expected monsters after Malmedy. Instead, you see broken humans. Hatred becomes complicated. These soldiers didn't choose Hitler. They simply obeyed. Does that absolve them? You don't know. War complicates morality impossibly. I survey battlefield after fighting ends in my sector. Destroyed tanks, litter-frozen landscape. Bodies freeze in death poses. Personal effects scattered everywhere. Photographs, letters, cigarettes. Each item represents someone's son, brother, father. Victory feels hollow standing among this carnage. I wonder what they died for. Freedom, orders, truth. Defies simple answers forever. January ends. Battle of the Bulge officially concludes. Americans suffered 19,000 killed, countless wounded or captured. Germans lost everything. Men, equipment, fuel reserves needed for defense. Hitler's desperation achieved nothing except hastening defeat. Belgium's Ardennes Forest becomes graveyard for final German offensive capability. The road to Berlin opens wider after this catastrophic failure. I tend wounded in field hospital. Seen too much death these past 6 weeks. Young men cry for mothers while dying. Others go silent, staring at nothing. I maintain professional composure through endless shifts. At night, alone in tent, I weep uncontrollably. Nobody sees my grief. I cannot show weakness. Others depend on my strength. I return to position where my best friend died. I find nothing. Snow covers everything. No marker, no grave, no evidence Mike existed. War erases people completely. I plant makeshift cross anyway, fashioned from branches. I say an inadequate goodbye to absence. Survivor's duty requires bearing witness. Somebody must remember. Otherwise, what meaning remains in his sacrifice? You'll never forget. The sound. Artillery bombardment echoes in nightmares forever. Veterans shake hands without speaking words, fail conveying shared experience. You belonged to a club nobody wanted joining. This battlefield branded your soul permanently. Years later, sudden noises trigger panic. You dive for cover that doesn't exist. War never truly ends for those who fought here. I interrogate captured German officer. The man speaks perfect English, studied at Oxford before war. We discuss philosophy, literature, common ground of education. Then reality intrudes. This civilized person participated in atrocities. Cultural refinement proved no barrier against barbarism. War's tragedy extends beyond battlefield deaths. It destroys illusions about humanity's fundamental decency under pressure. Supply Sergeant Baker distributes new winter gear to troops. Men discard blood-stained uniforms. Gratefully. Fresh clothes symbolize survival, new beginning. Baker notices how young they look without grime masking faces. Many won't see their 20th birthday. He distributes gear silently, swallowing grief. His job requires efficiency, not emotion. Feelings stay buried deep inside where nobody sees. German civilians flee westward, escaping Soviet advance from east. They prefer American occupation to Russian revenge. War's consequences spread far beyond soldiers. Women, children, elderly suffer displacement, starvation, violence. Refugees clog roads, complicating military movements. Nobody shows mercy. War exhausted, compassion's reserves completely. Survival becomes individual struggle without collective concern or shared responsibility for others. You hear politicians will call this heroic victory. They'll miss the point entirely. Nothing heroic exists in Frozen. Foxholes watching friends die for unclear objectives. Heroism is myth. Civilians need believing. Reality involves fear, exhaustion, random survival based on luck alone. Those who died aren't heroes, they're tragedies. Victory feels indistinguishable from loss when counting cost. Chaplain O'Brien conducts mass funeral service. Hundreds of crosses mark temporary graves. He speaks about sacrifice, purpose, divine plan. Words feel hollow in frozen air. Faith struggles against raw evidence of war's meaningless waste. He prays anyway. What else can anyone do? Ritual provides structure when understanding fails. Families deserve some comfort from their unbearable loss. I survey my damaged Sherman tank. Metal bears scars from direct hits that miraculously didn't penetrate. My crew survived by centimeters. Luck, not skill, saved us. I run hand over pockmarked armor, whispering thanks to steel and fortune. Tomorrow brings new battle. Luck doesn't last forever. I know statistical certainty eventually catches everyone here. Captain Yamamoto leads Nisei Regiment through German positions. His Japanese-American soldiers fight with extraordinary courage, proving loyalty despite internment camps, imprisoning their families back home. They endured double burden, combat stress plus racism from fellow Americans. Yet they persevere, earning more medals than any comparable unit. Prejudice wilts before undeniable valor under fire, repeatedly demonstrated. You realize war changed you permanently. The person entering combat no longer exists. Something died inside innocence, optimism, faith in justice. You survived physically, but lost yourself spiritually. Home will never feel quite right. You'll always feel disconnected from civilians who cannot comprehend. War created permanent exile from normal life you'll never fully recover from. Intelligence officers analyze captured German documents. Operation Watch on the Rhine failed spectacularly. Hitler gambled everything on surprise offensive, believing Americans would collapse under pressure. He miscalculated. American resilience, fundamentally. Desperation breeds poor strategy. History will judge this offensive as catastrophic error, accelerating Nazi defeat. Hubris destroys empires predictably throughout time's cruel lessons. I celebrate my 20th birthday in Belgium. Squad mates share chocolate bars and cigarettes as presents. They sing off-key, laughing at absurdity of celebrating life surrounded by death. I make wish silently to see 21. Simple aspiration becomes monumental hope. Tomorrow might erase me from existence. Tonight, I exist. That's birthday gift enough, given current circumstances. German prisoners clear mines from liberated areas. Dangerous work, fitting punishment for invasion. Some mines detonate, killing instantly. Others refuse orders, face military discipline. Most comply silently, understanding debt owed for crimes committed. Watching them work, American soldiers feel complex emotions, satisfaction, pity, continuing anger. Justice proves impossible to quantify after industrial-scale atrocity and suffering inflicted. You meet Belgian families returning to destroyed homes. They salvage possessions from rubble photograph albums, children's toys, mundane objects, now precious beyond measure. They thank Americans with tears and inadequate words. You realize you fought for real people, not abstract concepts. Their liberation justifies sacrifices. Small comfort, but comfort nonetheless. Purpose emerges from chaos, finally. Through their gratitude, I teach replacement soldiers battlefield lessons. Stay low, trust instincts, never volunteer. Watch experienced veterans. Luck matters more than training. My advice sounds cynical, but saves lives. New arrivals listen intently, memorizing wisdom paid in blood by previous replacements. Some won't survive learning curve anyway. I teach anyway. Maybe I'll save somebody this time. War correspondents arrive documenting battle's aftermath. They interview exhausted soldiers seeking quotes for articles back home. Veterans respond with monosyllables or silence. How can I explain this nightmare to readers eating breakfast safely? Words fail. Journalists eventually stop asking, recognizing unbridgeable gap between experience and explanation. Some truths defy communication entirely, no matter how skilled the storyteller attempts. February 1945 arrives. Quietly. Ardennes Forest slowly heals. Snow covers mass graves temporarily. Spring will reveal full devastation eventually. For now, winter provides merciful blanket over horror. Armies move eastward toward Germany proper. Bulge becomes memory painful, defining, transformative. Those surviving carry invisible wounds forever etched into minds and souls, indelibly throughout remaining lifetimes. You stand at crossroads where it began, trying to remember the exact spot where first shells fell. Everything looks different now, trees shattered, landscape scarred, innocence obliterated, permanently. You cannot recognize the place or yourself anymore. War transforms geography and people simultaneously. Both bear marks that time won't fully erase. Memory persists stubbornly despite desperate attempts at forgetting. History records Battle of the Bulge as Hitler's last offensive. Gamble. Statistics count casualties. Americans, Germans, civilians. Numbers cannot capture individual tragedies or collective trauma experienced. Each number represents universe of grief, families destroyed, futures erased, possibilities annihilated. We commemorate sacrifice appropriately, but understand incompletely. Those who weren't there simply cannot fully grasp war's total cost, extracted mercilessly. December 16th matters because ordinary people faced impossible choice, surrender or resist against overwhelming odds. They chose resistance. Their stubborn courage in Ardennes Forest changed history's trajectory permanently. Without their sacrifice, Europe's liberation delays indefinitely. Heroes aren't born. They're forged in frozen foxholes, choosing courage repeatedly despite terror. Remember them. They earned remembrance through blood and determination.